new to tarot reading, you might find the world of divination to be quite daunting. It's a big field of interest with a lot of conflicting and nuanced information, so it's kind of natural to feel like you might be doing something wrong. There are also plenty of preconceived notions that you might have about tarot that might stop you from fully utilizing your deck, without giving yourself an anxiety attack. But fear not, my friend, because I have been where you are and I want to help. Hi, I'm Charlemagne, and I am a tarot reader here on the internet. Here are some of the mistakes that I see a lot of beginner tarot readers make, and how you can overcome them to be a sensational tarot reader yourself. Let's start with the main one that I see, and that is trying to start reading your tarot cards without doing any research. That could be doing research into tarot reading in general, doing research on your specific deck, or understanding how divination works and how to use your intuition more effectively. Beginners will tend to do a reading, look at the cards they've pulled, and have no idea what they mean. Specifically, they'll get mad because they don't know what's going on the table, and then find themselves stuck because they don't have enough knowledge to be able to really benefit from the practice. This is also when people come to harass me in a comment section with basic questions that could easily be answered in any given tarot guide or a YouTube video. Kinda like this one. If you don't know something, research is your friend. Understanding the concept of tarot reading and the basic format will get you a lot further than just trying to vibe read the cards. While there is a lot of vibe reading in this practice, it won't help you when you don't know what any of the cards are supposed to be, or how you're supposed to lay them out to get to a particular outcome. We must first learn the structure of something before we can bend the rules to our needs. Using a guide for tarot reading, like my How to Tarot guide, something that you can currently purchase off of my Patreon, link in the description, or any other guide that you can find from a reputable source, will help with this, providing not only meanings for each of the cards, sometimes both upright and reversed, but not always, but it can also give guidance and advice for spreads, and pulls that you might not know how to do. There are also a bunch of websites that have their own guides and advice. Biddy Tarot, Labyrinthos Academy, The Tarot Guide by Lisa, that's my favorite one. They all have full meaning descriptions and guides for spreads, and usually a bunch of other articles covering concepts and information from their particular belief systems. Some of them even share information outside of the modern tarot system, and teach other cartomancy styles as well. On the flip side, the other thing that I see people do is researching themselves to death and never getting to the point where they can actually read for themselves or others very effectively. Reading and watching videos about all of the possible variations of meaning of each individual card and the different types of tarot systems and getting really down into the nitty-gritty of it, but never really putting that knowledge to work. Please don't fall into the trap of thinking that you have to know everything about something in order to be a true master, or just to do the thing. No one is a true master of anything because the only constant in the universe is change. And tarot is made to be read. You have to start the practice in order to see results in it. And importantly, reading is the only way that you're going to get feedback on that skill. You also then have to believe that your intention is as powerful as the action itself. When you read tarot to a certain extent, the results that you receive are going to be correlated to your belief that those results will not only make sense, but also be coherent to you. That they'll clarify your understanding. This isn't to say that you'll understand the meaning of the reading immediately, because trust me when I say that sometimes it will take ages for a reading to actually make sense. Sometimes weeks, sometimes months, potentially years. But you will have to trust that you can work out what the meaning of that reading is, and that it is possible to do so. Information is good, but realistically it is only a guideline for you to be able to interpret what the cards are saying. What you read in guidebooks and hear from creators on the internet can only take you so far, before you have to start doing it for yourself. This could mean starting with maybe one reading at the beginning of the week, to look at what you need to be paying attention to throughout that week, or pulling a card at the beginning of the day, to think about and reflect on. Even perhaps just asking a nagging question of the cards whenever it comes up, and seeing what those cards have to say. So much of the fear around not starting things comes from uncertainty, and the only way that we can clear that uncertainty is by trying first. Don't be afraid to try things. Speaking of fear, I see a lot of people in my comment sections, across my varying social media, and in life in general, to be honest, being very afraid that they're going to get a bad answer from their readings, and that that's somehow going to ruin their lives. Now, I've actually mentioned this in another video that I will put in the description and also in the card thingy. I forget which side it's on. But the fear of a result of a reading can only really boil down to like 3 things. Not understanding what the cards mean, thinking the result of a reading then fixes your future in some capacity, or being afraid that the answer you get isn't going to be the thing that you want. But that's not true. It is a fallacy to think that a single reading is going to ruin your entire life, because the thing that brings reality to fruition is people. Tarot cards are just cards, but they can reveal what might happen if you continue acting in the patterns that you are currently acting in right now. And people are genuinely terrified with being presented with even the hint of a possibility that what they're doing might be wrong, or at least that what they're doing won't result in the best outcome. And this fear of discomfort and rejection does genuinely scare people away from the medium. I think there can also be some level of catastrophizing attached to this, where people think that something is going to be bad, and then that heightens their ability to be able to see things, which would reinforce that belief. So seeing anything related to the worry that they have going into a reading might then confirm that fear, and then thusly blows it out of proportion, turning what might have been a minor hurdle to begin with into a massive mountain they now have to climb, without any evidence to suggest that that's true. But just like any form of shadow work, because tarot is considered a form of shadow work, and this is something that you should be doing, challenging your beliefs and ideas about yourself and the world around you, tarot is merely a means of just unfurling the confusing aspects of existing, helping us consider what the consequences of our actions might be, and giving us the tools to be able to navigate those things more effectively in the future. You read tarot, you find out something might happen, you either change your actions, which helps you change the outcome, or you prepare for something that is outside your control. But being afraid of what some cards are telling you? No. That just leads to avoidant behavior, and that stops us from being able to grow and change. There is nothing inherently to be afraid of in a tarot reading, except for maybe your own brain. And you live here, so you might as well make it a nice place to live. Oh, you bastard. Okay, I might have alluded to this one at the end of the last section, but I think that many people get themselves turned around when they overanalyze what the cards are saying to them while they're doing a reading. Come on. My light keeps dying and I'm not sure why. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit and see if that helps. I think that the overanalysis of cards can happen for a lot of reasons, but it is genuinely upsetting to see this happening in action. I've heard a lot of people say that they're not good enough at tarot reading, or that they're too stupid or not psychic enough to read the cards, which is completely untrue. Anyone has the capacity to read tarot cards. But I think that we can sometimes overcomplicate the medium. The thing with tarot reading is that it can be done on many different levels. And that means that difference in meaning and also in interpretation are very common. What you read in a card can be true and valid, while also being different from somebody else's interpretation of it. But the problem really lies in creating more inferences and meanings by thinking about it too much, straying away from your intuitive understanding of the card. When we overthink something, we tend to add new stuff to it, because we're trying to understand it from different angles. New ideas then attach themselves that weren't attached to your intuitive understanding of it to begin with, which then makes that thought bigger, and it feels far bigger than it originally was. And when you've done that enough and the idea becomes too big, it becomes incredibly overwhelming. And then that overwhelming sensation makes us feel small. But this is an intuitive practice, and that's a very important thing to remember. Whether you think you can logic your way out of this or not, it's still an intuitive practice. When doing a reading, my advice for all beginners is that you should write down the first thing that comes to mind for every card you pull, and then observe what you think when you see all of the cards together. Nothing to do with the question you asked them just yet. Just observe within the cards what you are seeing. Then take that observation and apply it to your question. Consider the symbols that you're seeing on the cards, and then apply them to the context. Instead of overanalyzing the information provided and creating one thing out of many things that aren't necessarily connected, identify the layers of the reading and allow those layers to be separated from each other until you can reach a conclusion. I also then think that this leads into the next mistake that I see people make that actually allows for more overthinking, and that is not having an opening or closing routine for your readings. I think a lot of people aren't doing this, and that's why they feel spiritually vulnerable all the time. So I'm a firm believer that ritual is an important part of spirituality, primarily because it creates boundaries. A boundary between spiritual actions taken and everyday life. This is a helpful boundary for the mind to stop you from getting too spiritually fixated, especially when you're first starting out. But also to stop the spiritual from bleeding into your everyday life in a way that's more sinister? I hate to use that word, but I can't think of a more appropriate one right now. Look, sometimes you just need the spirits to leave you alone while you're trying to do your laundry, you know? When you don't implement boundaries with your practices, it can open the door to overthinking, rumination, fixation. And spiritual practices are supposed to enhance and complement your life, not take them over completely. Tarot is no different in this case. And I've seen a lot of people get fixated on tarot to the point where they will ask their cards literally. Okay, I'm giving up on the light now. I've seen people get fixated on tarot where they will literally be asking their cards any question under the sun without considering whether it's an appropriate context for tarot cards to be asked these things, or really, if they needed to ask that question at all. Ultimately, tarot is a tool used to help us unpack, clarify, center our intuition and subconscious understandings, but we shouldn't be relying on them like some all-knowing oracle. When you create ritual around your readings, no matter how small, you give the reading space to do its thing, impart information, warn you of impending doom, support you through your spiritual journey, but it also gives you space in that moment to be more vulnerable, more open, more receptive, and then to be able to close up shop afterwards, not having to take that emotional burden with you necessarily. Okay, I've decided that it's way too dark to not try and have the light on. We'll just keep it low and hopefully it stays on for the rest of the video. You can mull over and acknowledge what your reading has said to you after the fact, but once you've closed up shop, you don't have to think about it any more than necessary, at least in order to absorb the information. I like to create ritual with these things by opening with a cleansing of myself, of my deck, of the space that I am reading in, and then I close the space by thanking my deck, tidying everything away, and cleaning the space that I've been using to read. You might want to do something different. A prayer or mantra, a closing action like a clap or a bow, just something to indicate that you are closing your practice, not only to yourself, but to anything or anyone that you might be working with in the spiritual realm. Okay, final one before I finish up, because I touched on this in the previous section, but I feel like it did deserve its own section in this video. I see a lot of people reading tarot way too hard at first, like doing full spreads every single day, because they think that that's what will make them better at reading, or maybe help them remember what all of the cards mean. Unfortunately, it won't do that, but what it will do is make you burn out super hard. On the flip side, if you don't engage with the medium enough, only reading once a week maybe, without putting in the time and effort to actually learn the nuances of the art form, as well as learning your own personal deck, you won't reap the benefits of doing the readings as much as maybe a regular tarot reader would. Like all things, this requires you have to find a reasonable routine for yourself. Something that you can maintain with tarot reading while you're developing the skills. You can then read when it feels appropriate to read for you. This is coming from someone that used to read literally every other day until they didn't have to look at the guidebook and now only reads for themselves once in a blue moon. This might mean only pulling a single card, but pulling it every single day, or doing several readings throughout the week and learning what they mean. But please don't think that you have to be pulling a full Celtic cross spread every single day just to learn what the cards mean. You don't have to memorize everything. That is too much, and I care about your mental health. Please don't do that to yourself. Tarot is a beautiful art form, and I hope that this video could at least stop one person from falling into some of the traps that I've seen other people fall into when they start exploring this medium for themselves. As people interested in learning this system and all of its eccentricities, I don't want you to hurt yourself doing it. If you want to learn more from me, I have linked a playlist to all of the tarot lessons that I have done so far to help you along your journey. If you would like to see more of me, here is all of the social media that I post on. It's all at Charming Moonco. I also have a Patreon if you are interested in supporting my work, including potentially getting a one-to-one reading with me, getting access to behind-the-scenes content, getting all of the tarot lessons early, and also potentially purchasing my How to Tarot guide. 200 plus pages on everything that you need to know to start tarot practice. I will be back with another video soon, but until then, stay blessed, my friend. And hopefully the light will work next time. Gosh, such a mess.